There comes a point when small changes aren't enough. You don't just need improvement, you need transformation. You need to become someone so disciplined, so focused, so relentless that even the people who once knew you no longer recognize you. The truth is, excuses have built the life you want to escape. Excuses protect your comfort, but they also chain you to mediocrity. The moment you kill them, you unlock a version of yourself that is unstoppable, unshakable, and unrecognizable. This audiobook is not about who you are today. It's about who you must become, and how to rise as a stronger, sharper, and completely transformed you. Chapter 1. The Breaking Point: Why Change Demands Urgency. There's a moment in every life when pretending no longer works, when the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the fear of changing. That moment, raw, undeniable, sometimes terrifying, is your breaking point. It's not weakness, it's your awakening. And it doesn't whisper, it roars. You wake up one day and realize you're no longer living, you're tolerating. Tolerating habits, tolerating excuses, tolerating people, and most painfully, tolerating a version of yourself that doesn't reflect who you know you could be. This discomfort isn't the end, it's the call to rise. Change doesn't begin with a perfect plan, it begins with honesty. When you're brave enough to look at your own life without excuses, without filters, and say, "This isn't it." That moment, as painful as it feels, is the beginning of your transformation. People wait for the right time, but pain is the right time. Regret is the clock ticking. Frustration is the alarm ringing. When you hit your breaking point, life isn't punishing you. It's offering you a door. You can step through it or stay locked in the same pattern. Urgency is not panic, it's clarity. It's knowing that your time is limited and your potential is not. The longer you wait, the more you normalize your suffering. Urgency tells you, do it now, while it still hurts enough to matter. Most people don't change because they can tolerate just enough discomfort. They numb it with distractions, bury it under routine. But your breaking point strips away all escape routes. It forces you to face the truth you've been running from, and that's where power begins. This chapter in your life isn't about learning something new. It's about unlearning who you've been pretending to be, the person you created to fit in, to stay safe, to avoid failure. When that mask cracks, the real you finally has space to rise. There's no transformation without urgency. Growth requires disruption, an earthquake of the soul. That might look like a betrayal, a job loss, a breakdown, or just an overwhelming realization. I can't keep doing this. Let it hit. Let it break you open. Waiting for the perfect moment is the ultimate excuse. It's disguised as wisdom, but it's fueled by fear. The perfect moment doesn't exist. Only this one. This breath. This chance to make a different choice. That's all change ever asks for, one brave step. Your life will not shift because of what you know. It will shift because of what you do when it hurts. Urgency means acting before you're ready, because waiting is how potential dies. Action is how it's reborn. When you reach your breaking point, don't just collapse, rebuild. Use the rubble of your past decisions to lay the foundation for a new future. The pain is real, but so is the opportunity hidden inside it. You are not broken. You are breaking free. Excuses have expiration dates. Eventually, even you stop believing them. You start to see that every reason you gave for not changing was just a delay tactic. And when you reach that point, you can either dig deeper into denial or dig yourself out. Urgency demands sacrifice, comfort, ease, approval. All of them get burned in the fire of transformation. But what rises from that fire is a self you've never met before. A version of you that doesn't wait, doesn't beg, doesn't explain, just builds. Look around. The version of your life that exists right now is not permanent. But if you don't disrupt it, it will become permanent by default. The breaking point is the only moment where that cycle can be shattered. And it's here for a reason. This isn't about becoming someone else. It's about becoming who you were meant to be before life, fear, and comfort got in the way. When you finally hit that wall and decide you're done being your own enemy, urgency becomes your greatest ally. Chapter 2. Excuses, the silent killers of potential. Excuses rarely scream. They whisper. They sound reasonable, even protective. It's not the right time. I'm too tired. Maybe tomorrow. These aren't just harmless thoughts. They are the slow erosion of potential, a quiet permission slip for mediocrity to stay in control. The most dangerous part of an excuse is how familiar it feels. It wears the voice of your inner dialogue. It uses your fears as evidence. It doesn't attack you. It comforts you. But comfort is the cage. And excuses are the locks that keep it shut. We rarely challenge our excuses because they come dressed as logic. But every time you give in to one, you reinforce the version of yourself that stays stuck. You tell your brain, "This is who I am." And your brain believes you until you prove otherwise through action. Excuses love waiting. They live in the gap between who you are and who you want to be. They thrive on indecision. Every time you say, "I'll start Monday," you train yourself to abandon today. But transformation doesn't begin with someday. It begins with now. You don't need to have the perfect plan to take the first step. Excuses will tell you otherwise. They'll convince you to over-prepare, overthink, and underact. Perfectionism isn't noble. It's often fear, pretending to be disciplined. Done imperfectly beats planned perfectly every time. The longer you entertain excuses, the more they sound like truths. You begin to believe your own limits. You accept them as part of your identity. But excuses are not your nature. They are habits. And habits can be broken when you decide enough is enough. Excuses feed on external blame. It's my environment. It's my upbringing. It's their fault. But the moment you point outward, you give away your power. Responsibility is heavy, but it's the only weight that builds strength. Blame keeps you light and weak. The excuse that kills the most dreams. I'm not ready. But readiness is not a requirement. It's a result of showing up. You don't become ready and then act. You act until you become ready. You grow into it through the doing, not the waiting. Excuses often hide in your values. I care too much about people to say no. I'm just being humble. But if your values keep you from growing, maybe they're not values. Maybe they're fears wearing nice clothes. True values sharpen you. Excuses shrink you. Your goals don't disappear because of time. They disappear because of delay. Every excuse buys you time and sells you regret. Eventually, the opportunity you keep putting off will no longer be available. Excuses may feel safe now, but they're dangerous later. There's a voice inside you that remembers who you were before the excuses. The younger you, the clearer you, the fearless you. That version still exists. It's just buried under years of delayed action. You don't need to find them. You need to stop hiding behind the reasons you haven't tried. Excuses don't usually come in the form of can't. They come in the form of not yet. That not yet becomes weeks, then years, then a life. If you're not careful, your entire story will be a timeline of what could have been, if only you hadn't waited. You don't break excuses with motivation. You break them with movement, with one action that proves them wrong. The moment you do something you said you couldn't, the lie begins to dissolve. Momentum kills excuses faster than any self-help book ever could. Excuses love company. People who stay stuck often validate each other. At least we're trying. We'll get to it eventually. But real growth happens when you step away from the crowd and into your own discipline. Not loudly, just consistently. Excuses may feel like protection, but they're really chains. They keep you safe from risk, but also from growth. The next level of your life requires a version of you that refuses to be held back by imagined limits. Kill the excuse, or it will slowly kill the version of you that was meant to rise. Chapter 3. Cutting Ties with the Old You. The version of you that brought you this far is not the version that will take you further. And that truth is hard, because it means letting go, not just of habits or environments, but of identities you've clung to for years. Growth demands a breakup with your former self. You've built routines around who you used to be. Excuses have become your protection. Your fears have built your comfort zone. But when you feel an inner resistance to your own life, that's not dysfunction. It's the signal that your evolution is calling. You can't become new while dragging the weight of the old. The stories you tell yourself, "I've always been this way. I'm not that kind of person. This is just who I am." Those are not facts. They are choices, and you can choose differently. Every time you decide to grow, the old you will panic. It will scream for your attention. It will pull you back into procrastination, insecurity, and guilt. That's not failure. That's the identity you're shedding. And yes, it's painful, but it's also necessary. Cutting ties with the old you means releasing comfort that once felt like safety. You must walk away from outdated mindsets, not because they were wrong, but because they're no longer aligned. Growth isn't betrayal, it's the deepest form of loyalty to your future self. Sometimes, you must leave behind people who only know the older version of you, the version that settled, doubted, played small. If they can't see who you're becoming, don't shrink to make them comfortable. Not everyone is meant to witness your becoming. You'll mourn the old you, not because they were great, but because they were familiar. You'll miss the certainty, even if it was holding you back. That's okay. Let grief be part of the process. Evolution isn't always joyful. Sometimes it's the quiet ache of release. The old you loved shortcuts, excuses, external validation. But the new you builds in silence, shows up when no one claps, chooses integrity over ease. That shift won't happen overnight. It happens through daily decisions to act like the person you're becoming. Ask yourself this: who benefits when you stay the same? Often, the only thing that benefits is fear. When you begin cutting ties with your old self, your reality changes. You stop negotiating with mediocrity. You stop asking for permission to grow. You cannot keep building a new life with an outdated mindset. If your thoughts still belong to the old you, your progress will always be temporary. True reinvention starts in the mind, with new beliefs, new standards, and new internal dialogue. People will notice. They'll say you've changed. Let them. That's the goal. You're not meant to live your whole life as a snapshot from the past. You're meant to evolve, to confuse the world with your growth, to become unrecognizable even to your former self. Cutting ties also means forgiving the old you, not shaming them. They did what they knew. They kept you safe, even if it wasn't healthy. But now you know better. You have new tools, new hunger, and a new vision. Thank the past version, then outgrow them. The new you won't feel natural at first. It'll feel forced, even fake. That's normal. You're stepping into unfamiliar territory. But repetition turns effort into instinct. Keep showing up as the person you aspire to be, until one day it's simply who you are. You won't fully grow until you release what no longer serves your direction. The people, the patterns, the mindsets, they may feel comfortable, but they're not aligned. Growth demands trade-offs, and often the first thing to go is who you used to be. The old you survived, but the new you will thrive. And that's worth every uncomfortable goodbye, every hard shift, and every moment of becoming someone your past never saw coming. You're not losing yourself. You're meeting who you were always meant to be. Chapter 4. The Discipline of Daily Reinvention. Reinvention is not a one-time act. It's a lifestyle, a quiet, relentless discipline you choose every day, even when no one notices. It doesn't begin with grand declarations. It begins with waking up and doing one more thing differently than you did yesterday. The danger of success is that it makes you think you've arrived. But growth has no finish line. Who you are today is not the final version. Reinvention means refusing to settle, no matter how far you've come. It's not dissatisfaction, it's devotion to evolution. Daily reinvention doesn't require a crisis. It requires commitment, a decision to constantly refine your thoughts, your choices, your behaviors, not because you hate the old you, but because the next version deserves your effort. Most people live on autopilot. They repeat what's familiar, not what's necessary. But reinvention is manual. It's choosing to stop coasting and start crafting. Every habit, every thought pattern, every emotional reflex becomes something you examine, reshape, and upgrade. Discipline is your sculptor. It doesn't ask how you feel. It asks what you value. If you wait to feel like changing, you'll stay the same. But if you let values drive you, integrity, clarity, purpose, you can shape your identity brick by brick. Each morning is a reset button. You wake up with a chance to decide, will I carry yesterday's excuses, or will I bring today's intention? Reinvention starts with what you do before the world even sees you. It's the private choices that build public strength. The new you isn't born in a single moment. It's layered in effort, a new mindset, a new boundary, a new response to an old trigger. Change looks small at first, but those inches become miles when done daily. Discipline turns repetition into revelation. Sometimes, daily reinvention looks like saying no to distractions, temptations, old patterns. Other times, it looks like saying yes to discomfort, to truth, to something that scares you. The discipline is not in the feeling, it's in the follow-through. You will not always see the results immediately. That's why it's called discipline. It's doing what's right without immediate reward. It's trusting that the seeds you plant today, in silence, will become the forest of your strength tomorrow. People want transformation without maintenance, but real change requires daily care. You don't rise once. You rise again and again, especially after you fall. Daily reinvention doesn't mean never failing. It means refusing to let failure become your home. Don't confuse consistency with comfort. Discipline often feels boring. It's not exciting to wake up early, meditate, train, study, resist. But these acts, done over time, rewire your identity. You don't just do them, you become them. The world will tempt you to return to your old self. That version is easier to manage, easier to explain, but the disciplined self chooses what's aligned, not what's easy. Daily reinvention is a rebellion against the pull of who you used to be. You must fall in love with becoming, not just achieving, because the goal is not a destination, it's a direction. And every day you live aligned with that direction, you are already successful. You're already ahead of the old you. There will be days when you don't feel strong enough to continue, but the discipline is in showing up anyway, even at half capacity. Even if all you can manage is one small step forward, that's still reinvention. That's still progress. Don't wait for a breakdown to start rebuilding. Choose to grow when things are stable. That's how you build a foundation strong enough to withstand storms. Daily reinvention makes you anti-fragile, stronger because of stress, not weaker from it. You don't need a new identity every week. You just need to stop betraying the one you're building. That means aligning your actions with your intentions, being who you say you are, especially when no one is watching. Daily reinvention is a quiet revolution. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't beg for applause. It grows in the background, in choices, in patterns, in the way you treat your time. And then one day, you wake up, unrecognizable to the past. If you want a different life, you need to live differently, not once, but repeatedly. Change isn't a motivation burst. It's a process of disciplined layering. Each day is a brick, and you decide what kind of future you're building with it. The power of daily reinvention is this: you don't need to wait for anyone to give you permission. You don't need the right time, or the right mood, or the perfect version of yourself. You need today. You need a decision. You need to begin again. Let the world watch you shift, slowly and silently. Let them wonder how you moved so far without announcing it. That's the mark of someone who didn't just change once, but built their transformation through the unshakable discipline of daily reinvention. Chapter 5. Reprogramming your mind for action. Your mind is not fixed, it's programmable. Every belief, every pattern of hesitation, every instinct to delay can be rewritten. But only if you stop waiting for motivation and start practicing intentional thought like a craft, daily, deliberately, decisively. Most people are trained by accident, conditioned by fear, influenced by comfort, shaped by failure they never challenged. But reprogramming means consciously choosing the thoughts you allow to loop. Every time you catch yourself spiraling, you reclaim authority. You don't act your way into change until you think your way into courage. Action begins in the mind, not with emotion, but with clarity. What you believe is possible becomes what you're willing to attempt, and what you attempt often enough becomes who you are. Old mental scripts will fight to stay. They've built their home in your reactions. I can't. I'm not ready. What if I fail? You don't destroy them by force. You replace them. One intentional, empowering thought at a time. Language matters. The way you speak to yourself becomes the environment you operate in. Stop calling yourself lazy when you're just afraid. Stop saying, I can't, when you mean, I haven't tried yet. Your self-talk sets the emotional climate for everything that follows. You've been conditioned to wait, for inspiration, for signs, for readiness. But real change happens when you flip that wiring, when you say, I move first. My feelings catch up later. You don't wait for belief to act. You act until belief is earned. Your brain resists unfamiliarity. That's not weakness, it's biology. But you are not a slave to old programming. Neuroplasticity is real. Thought patterns can change. And every time you choose action over avoidance, you carve a new neural path forward. Start by catching the loops. When your mind repeats the same excuse, pause. Ask, is this helpful? Is this true? Is this the voice of who I'm becoming or who I've outgrown? You don't need to silence every fear. Just stop feeding the ones that keep you frozen. Affirmation without action is fantasy, but belief with behavior is transformation. Start embedding new thoughts through evidence. One small win, one boundary held, one habit honored. Momentum rewires doubt faster than reflection alone. Visualization isn't woo-woo, it's rehearsal. Olympic athletes do it. Military commanders do it. Entrepreneurs do it. See yourself acting before you act. Your nervous system will believe it's real, and when the time comes, fear won't be your first response. You must train your mind to stop treating discomfort like danger. Action feels awkward at first. That's normal. But instead of seeing resistance as a red light, start treating it as a green light. If it feels unfamiliar, that's a sign you're building something new. Procrastination is rarely about laziness. It's about fear. Fear of imperfection, fear of failure. Reprogramming your mind means sitting with that fear and acting anyway. Bravery isn't the absence of doubt, it's movement in spite of it. Start questioning the old conclusions. I'm not good at this. Based on what? I've failed before. Everyone has. I'm not like them. You're not supposed to be. Growth doesn't require flawless beginnings. It requires one more attempt, done with intention. Every day, choose a new anchor thought, something that shifts your state. I build my life, not just think about it. My actions define me, not my fears. Let these thoughts become your mental armor, your morning code before the world gets loud. Action is not just physical, it's energetic. When you start thinking in forward motion, your body follows. Your choices change. You begin building from alignment, not anxiety. Thought fuels energy, and energy creates transformation. You can't create new outcomes with outdated thoughts, so audit them, list them, challenge them, replace them. This is not passive work. It's internal resistance training. The stronger your mental alignment, the less permission fear has to lead. Don't romanticize your stuckness. Some people wear their limitations like identity. I'm just an overthinker. I'm the anxious type. But you're more than your patterns. You're the one who can observe and change them. You are not your wiring, you are your will. The world will reward you for conformity. But fulfillment comes from mental freedom, the ability to choose action when every part of you wants to hide. You can rewire that reflex. You can choose a different rhythm. And once you do, you never move the same again. Reprogramming is not about feeling powerful. It's about taking power back from unconscious loops. It's not instant, but it's possible. Through repetition, awareness, and courageous acts, you evolve. Not through thought alone, but through thought that leads to motion. Start now. Not perfectly, just honestly. Begin watching your inner world with curiosity, not judgment. Begin shaping it with intention, not passivity. The mind that was once your prison can become your engine if you teach it how to think in action. Chapter 6. Sacrifices that lead to transformation. Transformation always comes with a cost. You don't rise without letting something fall. The question is never, will I lose something? It's, what am I willing to give up to gain who I'm meant to become? Many people want the rewards of change, but not the price. They want the new body, but not the early mornings. The new mindset, but not the silence. The freedom, but not the discipline. But transformation is a trade, and it's never free. You cannot grow while clinging to comfort. The version of you that stays safe will never know the power of what lies beyond routine. Sacrifice isn't pain for pain's sake. It's choosing temporary discomfort for permanent elevation. You'll have to let go of who people think you are, the approval you used to crave, the identity that kept you predictable. Transformation doesn't happen when everyone applauds you. It happens when you walk alone, misunderstood, yet focused. Real change means losing time, the kind wasted on distractions, validation, and passive consumption. That time becomes fuel. You sacrifice scrolling for studying, talking for doing, reacting for creating. That trade makes you unstoppable. There's no transformation without inner loss, the shedding of habits that once felt like home. You will miss them at first, the late-night indulgences, the excuses, the false comfort. But what you build in their place will redefine your strength. Sometimes you'll sacrifice relationships, not out of bitterness, but because you're no longer aligned with who you were. People who only knew your old patterns may not understand your new priorities. Let them go, gently but firmly. Transformation asks you to say no more often. No to temporary pleasure. No to the path of least resistance. No to things that once brought you joy, but now cost you growth. Every no becomes a sacred yes to something higher. Sacrifice is not punishment, it's proof of seriousness. Anyone can wish, but the one who sacrifices, who turns dreams into plans and plans into discipline, becomes something different, something rare, someone others can't ignore. You may have to let go of speed. Transformation isn't quick. You'll sacrifice the illusion of overnight success for the reality of daily progress. That's a beautiful trade, because what you earn slowly, no one can take from you easily. Letting go of ego is one of the hardest sacrifices. You'll have to admit you were wrong, that you've been hiding, that you've held yourself back. But in that surrender, you find your real power. Not in pretending, but in evolving. You might sacrifice comfort, but you'll gain clarity. You'll trade shallow happiness for deep peace. You'll lose the rush of temporary wins and gain the fulfillment of becoming someone solid, someone you're proud to wake up as. Sacrificing the old story you've told yourself, that you're not enough, that you always fail, that you're too broken, is vital. Transformation begins the moment you rewrite that narrative and live into a truth more aligned with who you're becoming. Not everyone will cheer for your sacrifice. Some will mock it. Some will resent your discipline because it reflects their own lack of it. Let them be. Your transformation is not for applause, it's for your own rebirth. You'll feel the loss before you feel the gain. That's the paradox. It feels like weakness when you're actually getting stronger, like failure when you're actually breaking free. Be patient. Your future self is already thanking you. Sacrifice builds character. It shapes resilience. It teaches you to value what you once took for granted. You stop waiting for things to be easy, and you start working with what's hard, not out of obligation, but out of purpose. Each sacrifice is a statement. I'm done waiting to become who I was meant to be. It's the cut that severs you from your excuses, the bridge you burn to ensure there's no going back to mediocrity. You don't have to sacrifice everything all at once. Start small. Let go of one habit, one excuse, one thought that no longer serves you. Watch how even a single sacrifice shifts your path. Momentum builds from intentional release. The greatest sacrifice you'll make is who you were, not because that version of you was bad, but because it was incomplete. Transformation requires honoring your past self while choosing not to stay there. When you learn to sacrifice willingly, consistently, and purposefully, you unlock a rare power, the ability to shape your life on your terms, not by chance, but by courage. And through that courage, you become unrecognizable in the best way. The moment you choose long-term gain over short-term pleasure, you're already stepping into a new version of yourself. That moment, the quiet decision no one sees, is the seed of your reinvention. Sacrifice is invisible before it becomes undeniable. Growth will demand that you let go of outdated goals too. Sometimes what you used to want no longer fits the person you're becoming. That's not failure, that's evolution. Your purpose isn't static. Sacrificing old dreams creates room for truer ones. You may sacrifice being understood. When you choose to rise, people will project their limits onto your progress. Let them. You're not here to explain your hunger to those who are still comfortable being starving. The deepest transformation often starts with sacrificing your need to feel ready. Waiting to feel prepared is a disguised form of fear. You don't need certainty, you need movement. Readiness is something you create by acting, not by stalling. Your schedule will need to change. If your days are filled with low-value distractions, there's no room for high-impact action. You'll need to sacrifice excess, even good things, to focus on great ones. Simplicity builds clarity. You might have to stop proving yourself. The energy you use to seek validation is energy stolen from your evolution. Sacrifice the need to be liked and replace it with the need to respect yourself. Peace grows where approval no longer rules. Letting go of being busy is another underrated sacrifice. Some stay distracted to avoid depth. But depth is where the change happens. When you trade activity for intentionality, your efforts finally start to build something real. You'll have to sacrifice perfection. If you only act when the plan is flawless, you'll never move. Transformation is born in messy attempts, flawed progress, and imperfect courage. Perfection is the enemy of motion. Let it go. Sacrifice predictability. The path of growth is filled with unknowns, but that's where potential lives, outside the map. When you stop needing to know every step, you open yourself to outcomes far beyond what you once imagined. Your past wins may also need to be released. Don't get stuck in the echo of who you once were. Sacrifice the comfort of success if it's stopping you from chasing what's next. Transformation means never settling, even for excellence. Sometimes you'll have to disappoint others to stay loyal to your future. That's a heavy sacrifice, especially if you're used to people-pleasing. But living to be liked keeps you small. Living in integrity pulls you into alignment. Even self-care can become a crutch when it's used to escape action. You'll have to sacrifice the illusion of healing when it's no longer moving you forward. True transformation is not just about soothing, it's about breaking through. Sacrifice old stories. This is just who I am. I've always been this way. Those beliefs are prisons dressed as personality. You're allowed to become someone new. In fact, it's your responsibility if the old identity is keeping you stuck. The way you deal with boredom must shift. Most people avoid sacrifice because it's not thrilling, it's quiet, disciplined, repetitive. But those who master the mundane master the extraordinary. Boredom is where consistency is built. Sacrificing comparison is crucial. Measuring yourself against others keeps you reactive, not proactive. Trade envy for insight. Use others as mirrors, not rulers. The more you sacrifice judgment, the freer you are to focus on what you are building. You'll sacrifice emotional comfort when you start telling yourself the truth, that you've wasted time, that you've blamed others, that you've been running from responsibility. It hurts. But truth is the tool that carves the new you. Let go of shortcuts. Anything built fast dies faster. Transformation requires sacrifice of the desire to hack everything. Build slowly, lay bricks, master your process. When your foundation is solid, no storm can shake you. You'll have to sacrifice your own excuses, not just the visible ones, but the quiet internal justifications. I'm too old. I'm too tired. It's too late. All lies, all optional. You can burn them one by one and step into the fire of real growth. Sacrifice your silence, speak your goals, declare your standards, not for applause, but for accountability. The more your voice aligns with your vision, the more your world reshapes itself to match your inner commitment. Lastly, sacrifice the idea that transformation is a moment. It's not. It's 1,000 decisions, 1,000 uncomfortable pauses, 1,000 steps taken when no one is watching. It's not loud, but it's powerful, and it will change everything. Chapter 7. Building habits that leave no room for weakness. A strong life isn't built from bursts of motivation. It's built from habits that don't ask how you feel. When your actions are automatic, your weakness has no entry point. That's the real goal. To make strength a routine, not a decision. Habits are your silent builders. While people admire the outcome, they never see the daily choices behind it. A habit is a quiet ritual that says, I've decided who I'm becoming, and I prove it every day. Weakness thrives in gaps in commitment, consistency, and clarity. You don't need perfect willpower. You need systems so tight that even on your worst day, your best self still shows up by default. The difference between the disciplined and the lost isn't intelligence, it's structure. One person relies on emotion, the other relies on habit. One waits to feel like it. The other trains to do it regardless. You can't leave room for weakness if your mornings are filled with confusion. How you start your day matters. A solid morning habit isn't about checking boxes. It's about entering each day with intention and control. Start small, but be ruthless with repetition. 1 glass of water, 1 page read, 1 workout, 1 decision that says, I no longer negotiate with mediocrity. Stack these, and soon your life begins to reflect precision. You don't need to build 10 new habits at once. Build one, master it, then move to the next. Excellence is layered. It's not loud. It's built in silence, with boring consistency until the world sees what you became behind the scenes. Track yourself. Weakness hides in vagueness. When you measure nothing, you improve nothing. The strongest people are brutally honest with their patterns, not to punish themselves, but to refine their path forward. Automation is your ally. Remove friction. Place your journal beside your bed. Lay your shoes by the door. Prep your meals. Make success harder to avoid than failure. That's how habits become identity. Discipline doesn't mean restriction. It means alignment. You're not cutting joy out of life. You're cutting distractions that sabotage joy. True fulfillment comes when your actions align with who you say you are. Most people fail not because they don't try, but because they rely on willpower in moments where habits should already exist. Willpower is a backup generator, not your daily source of power. A powerful habit is one that continues when no one's watching. It's brushing your inner world clean before the world gets access to you. It's building in private what you'll live in public. Don't just build habits for your goals. Build them for your identity. Ask, what does a focused person do daily? Then do that. Over time, the doing becomes being. You won't even remember when the shift happened, only that it did. Eliminate optionality. If your habit is optional, weakness will win. Make it non-negotiable, even if it starts small. The power isn't in scale, it's in consistency. A non-optional walk beats an optional plan to run a marathon. Temptation loses power when your habits are tight. You don't crave chaos when order governs your day. Habits don't just build strength. They quiet the noise, reduce decision fatigue, and amplify clarity. Your habits should serve your future, not just soothe your present. There's nothing wrong with rest, but if all your routines are built around escape, not progress, you'll never leave the version of you that keeps asking for more. The reason strong habits make you unrecognizable is because they change what you tolerate. You start walking away from comfort like it's poison, and in its place, you choose challenge, not for suffering, but for sharpening. Every habit is a vote for who you're becoming. It's not about discipline forever. It's about building systems so reliable that discipline fades into design. Eventually, you stop trying to change. You've already changed. Repetition carves identity. You may not feel the shift after one day or 1 week, but 100 days in, people will look at you differently. They'll ask, "What happened?" And the answer will be simple. I built my habits, and my habits built me. To leave no room for weakness, build habits that outlast moods, silence doubts, and overpower excuses. Become so structured in your daily practice that even on your worst day, the version of you that shows up is still powerful. There's a version of you that doesn't need reminders. That version doesn't ask, "Should I do it today?" They just do it. You reach that level, not by force, but by consistent self-alignment. Habits are how you rewire your defaults. Every time you repeat a behavior with intention, you send your brain a message. This is who I am now. The brain learns by repetition, not by inspiration, not by talk. Only action repeated becomes belief. When weakness knocks, it doesn't announce itself as failure. It whispers comfort. It tempts you with rest that isn't earned, pleasure that isn't purposeful. But if your habits are fortified, you'll recognize the trap before you fall in. Greatness doesn't live in rare events. It hides in daily rituals that seem too boring to matter. The way you write, move, sleep, eat, focus. These are the invisible threads that weave your future. Habits are the hidden builders of destiny. Stop trying to change everything at once. Create a system that evolves with you. Build one keystone habit, protect it, then stack the next. Mastery doesn't rush. It moves forward deliberately and daily. The strongest habits don't feel like effort after a while. They feel like identity, and that's the goal. When the behavior feels like you, discipline becomes second nature. That's when the struggle turns into rhythm. You'll know your habits are solid when you stop arguing with yourself about what needs to be done. There's no more drama, no more back and forth, just forward, just flow. That's peace disguised as structure. Habits don't eliminate hardship. They prepare you for it. When the storm hits, you don't rise to the occasion. You fall to your systems. And if your systems are strong, you weather anything with poise, power, and presence. To leave no room for weakness, attach your habits to purpose. Why do you wake early? Why do you move your body? Why do you write or build or create? If your why is strong, your how becomes automatic. You'll never know how powerful you are until your day is hard, and you follow through anyway. That's what your habits are training for, not the easy days, but the days when everything tells you to stop, and you don't. Habits are the quiet rebellion against the chaos of modern life. While others scroll, you read. While they complain, you create. You don't need noise, you need a system, and that system becomes your shield. Discipline doesn't have to feel heavy. When done right, it's freedom. It frees you from regret, from procrastination, from inconsistency. A day structured by purpose feels lighter because you're not fighting yourself all day. Every excuse you use to rely on fades when your habits tighten. Tired? The habit still runs. Busy? The habit adjusts but doesn't disappear. These routines become your resilience, built one tiny promise at a time. You won't always be motivated, but you can always be prepared. Habits prepare you to win before the day even begins. They're pre-made decisions, and that's how you conserve willpower for the battles that matter. Build trigger habits. Tie a new behavior to an existing one. After I brush my teeth, I journal. After I make coffee, I stretch. This stacking approach cements change in your brain through repetition and association. Your current results are a reflection of your current systems. If you're unhappy with the outcome, don't shame yourself. Inspect your process. Refine the structure. The results will follow. Make your environment support your habits. Rearrange your space, your tech, your time. Discipline isn't just internal, it's also designed. You make it easy to succeed and hard to fail. That's intelligence in action. You'll know your habits are built right when people start asking you, "How are you so consistent?" And you won't have a flashy answer. You'll shrug and say, "It's just what I do now." That's when identity has taken over. Weakness will always try to creep in. But strong habits slam the door. They remind you, even on dark days, that you've already decided who you are. That's not just power. That's self-mastery in motion. And when you look back, it won't be one massive moment that changed everything. It'll be thousands of tiny, disciplined moments, strung together, stitched by habit, powered by choice. That's how strength becomes who you are. Chapter 8. Silence the doubters. Silence the noise. Doubt is never loud at first. It starts as a whisper, a quiet hesitation planted by someone else's fear. Before long, that whisper becomes a script you play on repeat until you no longer remember whose voice it was to begin with. You don't owe anyone an explanation for your evolution. The moment you start justifying your growth to those who don't believe in it, you begin diluting your power. Silence becomes your weapon. Not to hide, but to protect your energy. The ones who doubt you are often the ones too afraid to change themselves. They'll point fingers to distract from their own stagnation. That's not your burden to carry. You rise by walking away from their noise, not arguing with it. You don't need to announce every move. Growth speaks without words. Let your progress be the proof. Let your transformation be the loudest thing they hear, even if you never say a word to them again. Most of the noise isn't around you, it's inside you. It's the voice that says, "You can't," mimicking every critic who ever underestimated you. The challenge isn't to yell back, it's to prove that voice wrong through action, not argument. Silencing doubt doesn't mean pretending it doesn't exist. It means looking it in the face and saying, "You're not in charge here." Power doesn't come from never hearing the noise. It comes from not obeying it. To build the life you want, you must learn the art of selective deafness. Tune out anything that doesn't sharpen your vision. If it distracts, dismiss it. If it drains, delete it. Your focus is too precious to waste on echoes. They'll say you've changed, and they'll be right. What they won't understand is that you had to. The old you was built on their approval. The new you is built on self-respect, and that's something they can't manipulate. Silence is not weakness, it's strategy. When you stop defending your decisions, you start owning them. Every moment you waste explaining your growth is a moment stolen from becoming who you're meant to be. Don't argue with small minds. Don't beg for validation. Don't trade your clarity for applause. You're not here to be understood by everyone. You're here to be aligned with your mission, and that mission requires peace. Noise is everywhere. Social media, news cycles, opinions, doubts. If you don't learn to filter it, you'll drown in it. The strongest minds are not the ones that hear everything. They're the ones that choose what deserves attention. Learn to let silence respond where once you reacted. Not every insult deserves energy. Not every doubter deserves a reply. The more you protect your peace, the more powerful your progress becomes. You rise higher when you stop explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. Their disbelief isn't a reflection of your limits. It's a mirror of their own. Let them watch. Let them wonder. Keep building. The real ones won't need convincing. They'll see the change in your eyes, in your habits, in your presence. They'll know without asking. You don't need a crowd to validate your becoming. You need a core, silent, steady, strong. When the noise gets loud, return to your reasons. Revisit the moment you said, enough. The moment you decided to leave behind excuses, delay, and comfort. That fire didn't need their approval then. It doesn't need it now. Doubt is always loudest right before a breakthrough. The closer you get to the life you want, the more resistance shows up, inside and outside. Don't panic. That's proof you're no longer in the old pattern. You're breaking free. Don't fight the doubters. Outgrow them. Let your results speak the language they never understood. When you're too busy winning, there's no time to debate your worth with those who never saw it. You weren't made to blend in. You weren't made to please the crowd. You were made to walk your own path, even when it's silent, lonely, or misunderstood. That's how leaders are born. In the silence, in the noise ignored. They'll try to get in your head, not because you're weak, but because they see your potential. The louder the noise, the more power you threaten to unleash. Let that remind you. Their doubt is just fear of your rise. And so you walk forward, clear, quiet, focused. No need to convince, no need to defend. Just the sound of your footsteps, steady and unstoppable, as the noise fades behind you and the real you steps into the light. The people who once cheered for you may grow quiet when you start to rise beyond their reach. It's not personal, it's projection. Your evolution threatens their comfort, and instead of growing with you, they'll question your path. Stay silent. Keep moving. The less you react, the more powerful you become. Doubt thrives on your response. The moment you defend your growth, you unconsciously give away control. Learn to outgrow the urge to prove yourself. The right ones will never need proof. They'll see your truth. Silencing noise isn't about isolation. It's about elevation. You rise by choosing whose voice belongs in your atmosphere. Protect your frequency like your future depends on it, because it does. Every time you choose silence over reaction, you reclaim energy. That energy, poured back into your goals, becomes momentum. While they talk, you build. While they doubt, you deliver. Eventually, the results speak louder than the noise ever did. Not everyone is meant to understand your transformation, and that's okay. They weren't given your vision. Stop begging for validation from people who can't even see the horizon you're walking toward. The world is noisy by design. Opinions, trends, fear-driven headlines. If you don't consciously choose what gets your attention, the world will choose for you. Discipline isn't just about doing. It's about choosing what not to absorb. Reinvention demands focus, and focus demands silence. Not just external silence, but internal stillness. You must get quiet enough to hear your intuition, that whisper that tells you you're on the right path. Keep going. There's a kind of silence that holds power, not the silence of surrender, but the silence of someone who knows they're building something bigger than the opinions around them. Let your quiet presence disturb their noise. When people question your change, they're often grieving the version of you they were comfortable with. Let them. You're not here to live in their comfort zone. You're here to break through your own limits. You'll be called arrogant for setting boundaries. You'll be labeled distant when you stop explaining. Let them say what they will. You weren't made to be understood. You were made to be fulfilled. Not every battle is worth fighting. Some are better won in silence. Let people underestimate you. Let them misjudge. While they waste energy on assumptions, you conserve yours for execution. When you go quiet, people get curious. When you stop oversharing, you start regaining control. In that stillness, you refine your moves. You realign your values. You become untouchable, not by hiding, but by sharpening. Your journey isn't up for public debate. You don't need a committee to approve your reinvention. What matters is how you feel about the person you're becoming, not how many likes that evolution gets. Most people live in noise because they're afraid of their own thoughts, but the strong face silence. They sit with it. They use it as fuel. It becomes their planning ground, their armor, their clarity. The more you evolve, the less you explain. You start to understand that true change is quiet at first. It grows beneath the surface. And one day, it's so strong that nothing, no voice, no doubt, can shake it. Remember, transformation is loud in results, not in announcements. Don't waste your momentum broadcasting what you're building. Use that energy to build it. Let the finished product say everything. In a world addicted to noise, silence is revolutionary. It confuses the weak and centers the strong. Practice it like a discipline. Protect it like your progress depends on it, because it does. Your focus is a sacred currency. Every time you respond to noise, you spend it. Be wise with your energy. Invest it in your habits, your vision, your future. Let the doubters spend their energy watching you rise. Eventually, the noise will fade. The doubters will go quiet. And all that will remain is the life you built through silence, focus, and unshakable self-belief. That's the life worth fighting for. Not with words, but with action. So when it gets loud again, when the doubts return and the world demands a reaction, pause, breathe. Remember who you're becoming and walk forward in the silence of power. Chapter 9. Suffering with Purpose. The Fire of Growth. Suffering is inevitable, but meaningless suffering is not. The pain you endure without direction becomes torment. But pain with purpose, that becomes fuel. It becomes a fire that doesn't consume you, but refines you. Most people try to escape suffering. They numb it, avoid it, deny it. But what they don't realize is that struggle is where the soul sharpens. You don't rise in the absence of pressure. You rise because of it. When life breaks you open, it's revealing the parts of you that need rebuilding. The pain points directly to where the old version of you must die, and where the new one begins. Don't run from that signal. Study it. Suffering for no reason can feel like punishment. But when you choose to suffer for growth, through discipline, sacrifice, and challenge, it becomes sacred. It becomes the birthplace of your future strength. Reinvention isn't glamorous. It's messy, it's lonely, it's painful. But that pain, it's evidence. Evidence that you're no longer settling. Evidence that you're in the process of becoming someone greater than who you were. You'll be tempted to wish the suffering away, to ask for ease. But ease doesn't shape resilience. Struggle does. And if you choose to face it rather than flee, you'll find parts of yourself you never knew existed. The fire doesn't come to destroy you. It comes to burn away what no longer belongs. The excuses, the lies, the comfort. Let it do its work. What remains after the fire is your essence, stronger, clearer, focused. Those who avoid suffering end up stuck in it. But those who embrace it, who walk willingly into discomfort for a higher purpose, find power. They find meaning. They find peace in knowing that their pain has direction. Purpose transforms pain into progress. It gives meaning to the tears, the failures, the lonely nights. When you suffer with vision, you rise with wisdom. You gain a clarity no comfort zone could ever provide. The ones who inspire you, the greats, the unshakable, they didn't get there by coasting. They suffered, but they suffered on purpose, with vision, with the intention to rise, not remain. You can't grow new roots if you're not willing to let the old ones be torn out. That tearing hurts. It feels like death, but it's the start of rebirth. And on the other side of it, something unshakable begins to form. The fire you're walking through is not proof that you're failing. It's proof that you're refining. You're being tested not to be punished, but to be prepared, to carry the strength required for the life you're building. Not every day of suffering is grand or dramatic. Some of it looks like waking up early when you're exhausted, saying no when you're tempted, showing up when you'd rather quit. These tiny pains forge extraordinary character. People want results without resistance. But that's not how strength is earned. You don't grow by reading about fire. You grow by walking through it and choosing not to turn back when the heat rises. Let your suffering stretch you, not shrink you. Let it push you to redefine what you're capable of. You're not breaking, you're unfolding. You're becoming someone the old you couldn't even imagine. There will be moments when you question if it's worth it, when the pain feels like too much. In those moments, breathe. Remember your reason. Remember the version of yourself you're fighting to become. Suffering strips away illusion. It reveals who truly supports you, what really matters, and how deeply you're willing to commit. In that revelation, there is power. There is clarity, there is truth. Don't glamorize pain, but don't despise it either. Respect it. Let it guide you. Let it humble you. Let it burn away the false identity you once clung to, so you can stand tall in the truth of who you're becoming. When you're in the fire, you're not lost. You're in transformation. You're being prepared. Every scar, every tear, every sleepless night is a mark of progress, not weakness, progress. And one day, you'll look back at the fire and smile, not because it didn't hurt, but because you endured, because you rose, because you didn't let the suffering stop you. You let it build you. When you understand the purpose of your pain, you stop resenting it. It becomes a companion, not one you asked for, but one that teaches you what nothing else could. It whispers truths that comfort never reveals. True change is always birthed through friction. Growth is not found in still waters. It's forged in storms, in moments when you're forced to choose whether to crumble or rise. That choice shapes your identity. There's a silent pride that comes from enduring what others avoid. It's not about ego. It's about knowing you didn't flinch. You didn't fold. You met the pressure head-on and walked through it, even when it hurt. Some of your greatest awakenings will come at your lowest points. That rock-bottom moment isn't your end. It's your ground zero. And from there, everything that rises is real, solid, and unshakable. We often pray for strength, not realizing it comes wrapped in discomfort. The struggle is the answer. The hardship is the training ground. If you want to be strong, you must be willing to be tested. There's a lesson pain delivers that ease never will. Who you really are when everything falls apart. That identity, stripped of masks and comfort, is your foundation, and it's built to last. Suffering humbles you. It reminds you that you're not invincible, not immune, but it also reminds you that you are adaptable, you're resilient, and that truth is what makes you unstoppable. Stop asking why it's hard. Start asking what it's teaching you. Every hardship holds a hidden code, a truth, a shift, a piece of wisdom that your comfort zone could never unlock. When you're in pain, you start to see more clearly. You begin to notice who stays and who leaves, what matters and what doesn't, what's real and what was just a distraction. That clarity is priceless. There will be nights where everything feels like it's falling apart, but in truth, it's falling into alignment. Trust that what's breaking is breaking for a reason. Something stronger is taking its place. The strongest version of you doesn't come from reading about growth. It comes from being broken and building anyway. It comes from facing what tried to destroy you and saying, "Not today." The difference between people who stay stuck and those who rise isn't the pain they face. It's what they do with it. Do they wallow or do they work? Do they collapse or do they create? Let the pain sharpen you. Let it make you precise in your purpose. You don't need to carry it forever, but you do need to understand what it came to show you. Otherwise, you'll repeat the cycle. Every scar you carry tells a story, not of weakness but of wisdom, not of failure but of survival. Don't hide them, wear them, honor them. They are proof that the fire didn't win. Sometimes pain is a portal. It opens something in you, a new standard, a new mindset, a new hunger. You just have to be brave enough to walk through that opening instead of turning away. People will ask how you became so focused, so calm, so powerful. They'll never know it was the nights you cried, the mornings you fought through dread, the silent battles you never shared. When you suffer with purpose, even your setbacks become sacred. You start to value the pain, not because you enjoy it, but because you understand what it's building in you. That understanding is rare. You're not weak for feeling pain, you're human. But you're powerful when you choose to let that pain elevate you instead of imprison you. That choice is your turning point. Growth isn't found in having all the answers. It's found in asking better questions while you're hurting. Questions like, who am I becoming? What am I learning? What needs to change? So the next time life breaks you open, don't rush to close it. Let the fire pass through. Let it reshape what must go. Let it ignite what must grow. That's where your transformation begins. In the fire, not after it. Chapter 10. Rising stronger every time you fail. Failure is not the opposite of success. It's the path to it. Every fall you survive gives you a deeper understanding of what it truly means to rise. It's not about avoiding collapse. It's about learning how to rebuild. The moment you fail, the world goes quiet. That silence isn't shame. It's an invitation to reflect, to rebuild, and to rise. The world may not notice your comeback yet, but your soul does. Each failure carves a new scar on your story. But scars are not signs of weakness. They are medals of endurance. They show that you were in the fight, that you didn't quit, that you risked something worth falling for. Most people fall and stay down because they see failure as identity. But failure is only a snapshot, not your whole story. What defines you is not that you failed, but what you did the moment after. To rise stronger, you must first stop hiding from the fall. Face it, own it. Let the truth of what happened break open your excuses. Only then can you build something real, not to impress others, but to empower yourself. Reinvention demands loss, and often failure is the loss that triggers it. It removes your illusions, it burns your false confidence, and it forces you to anchor in something deeper than surface winds. Every failure holds a lesson, but that lesson won't shout at you, it whispers. It waits for you to sit in the discomfort, to stop pointing fingers, and to ask yourself, what is this trying to teach me? When you learn to see failure as feedback, it loses its sting. It becomes a data point, a signal, not a sentence. It informs your next step rather than defining your final outcome. People will judge your failure, but they will forget it. What they'll remember is how you responded. The discipline, the comeback, the quiet way you showed up again and again until they had no choice but to respect you. The most dangerous kind of failure is the one you let convince you to stop trying. That failure isn't in the result, it's in your response. Because every time you try again, you shrink the power of defeat. True strength isn't in never falling. It's in rising so many times that the floor stops scaring you. You become familiar with the fall. You learn how to breathe through it. You learn how to land and launch. Sometimes failure is not a red light. It's a detour, a divine redirection that stops you from climbing the wrong mountain. But you'll only see that if you keep walking forward, even when the path looks broken. The strongest people you know, they've failed more times than they can count. What makes them powerful is not immunity from pain, it's their refusal to let the pain win. That mindset is built, not born. When failure happens, your mind will try to protect you with excuses. Don't accept them. Strip it down. Be brutally honest. Growth only comes when you're brave enough to own your part and course correct. Rising stronger means you no longer measure yourself by your falls, but by your response time. Did you get up today? Then you're ahead. Did you try again? Then you're not broken. You're becoming unshakable. Your relationship with failure determines the level of success you'll reach. If you fear it, you'll avoid risk. But if you embrace it, You'll outgrow everyone who plays it safe. That edge is everything. Every setback you face is a chance to rise differently, smarter, calmer, sharper. The old you fell, the new you learns. Each version is part of the process, not a mistake, but a layer of transformation. You can't rise if you're busy pretending you never fell. Be real, be raw, share your scars with pride. That authenticity will attract the people who are also rising and scare off those still hiding. Failure tests your patience, it stretches your ego, it humbles your expectations, but it also refines your focus. Because when you fall, you remember why you started, and that remembrance renews your fire. So fail, then rise, again and again, until your mind learns that falling is not fatal, it's necessary. And every time you rise, you become someone who's no longer afraid of the fall, because you know how to fly. Failure invites you to confront your pride, the part of you that thought you'd always get it right. It humbles you, yes, but it also expands you. You grow deeper roots when your image cracks and real learning begins. Some of your failures are blessings in disguise, sent to expose the weaknesses that success would have overlooked. If you had won too early, you wouldn't have noticed what needed to be fixed. Now you do. We live in a world obsessed with highlight reels, but growth happens in the raw footage, the footage no one shares. The quiet moments where you're crying, cleaning the mess, and choosing not to quit. When you rise from failure, you earn self-respect. It's not given by applause. It's not borrowed from praise. It's forged by the inner voice that knows you could have stayed down, but you didn't. Rebuilding after failure requires brutal honesty. You can't build on false beliefs. You need to strip the story down to the studs, find the cracks, and strengthen the foundation. That's how true resilience is created. You're not weak because you failed. You're human. And every human who ever created something meaningful failed repeatedly. The only difference is they didn't make it mean stop. Your ego will try to protect you by blaming others. Don't let it. Ownership is the doorway to power. The moment you take responsibility, you gain the ability to change your outcome. Rising means more than just standing up. It means adjusting, asking better questions, shifting your strategy. The old approach didn't work. Now you know. So try again, but smarter this time. There will be days when doubt lingers, when failure feels final. In those moments, remember, progress isn't always loud. Sometimes it's just the decision to keep going, even if no one sees it. Failure trains you to stay calm under pressure. Once you've fallen and risen enough times, chaos no longer scares you. You become the kind of person who adapts, not panics. Every great comeback was once a breakdown. No success story is clean. Behind every triumph is a moment when quitting felt easier. What makes the difference is choosing to move anyway. You're allowed to feel discouraged. Just don't unpack and live there. Use the emotion as fuel, channel it. Let it remind you that you still care, and that means you still have something worth fighting for. The more you rise, the more your old fear of failure fades. It loses its grip because you've trained your brain to see failure not as death, but as data, direction, and a call to evolve. Failure reminds you that you're not entitled to results. You're only entitled to your effort. And that effort, compounded over time, is what delivers the life you dream of. Each failure increases your empathy. You begin to understand others better, not from a pedestal, but from the ground. That connection makes you not only stronger, but wiser and more human. The most important thing after failure is what you tell yourself. If your inner voice turns toxic, rewrite it. Replace "I failed" with "I grew." Replace "I'm done" with "I'm just getting started." People don't remember how many times you failed. They remember how powerfully you returned. You're writing that story now. One decision, one comeback, one breath at a time. Keep rising until failure is no longer an interruption, but a rhythm. One you've learned to move with. one you use to build endurance, deepen wisdom, and sharpen your edge. Let the failure sting, but let it shape you. Don't numb it, don't run from it. Let it teach you something that easy victories never could. That's how you earn the right to lead yourself. So fall, then rise, and rise again, until you become so familiar with the process that falling stops frightening you, because you've seen what happens every time you get back up. Chapter 11. Emerging as someone they can't recognize. Transformation begins in silence. Long before anyone notices, before the glow-up, before the praise, there's a stretch of time when you're evolving alone, in the dark. That's where your rebirth quietly begins. People who once knew you will try to remind you who you used to be. Not out of malice, but out of familiarity. Your growth makes them uncomfortable. They'd rather keep you in the version of you that made them feel safe. When you start doing the work, killing your excuses, showing up daily, changing your patterns, something shifts, not just in your life, but in your presence. You carry a different weight, a grounded, silent strength. Emerging as someone they don't recognize doesn't mean becoming fake. It means becoming so real, so aligned, so disciplined that the watered-down version of you can't even survive anymore. It's not about proving them wrong. It's about proving to yourself that you're not who you used to be, that you don't react the same, don't settle the same, don't seek validation the same way anymore. The more you rise, the less you need permission. You stop waiting for others to believe in you. You stop over-explaining your choices. You simply act, because the results will say everything for you. They'll say you changed. They'll whisper that you've become cold or too focused. But what they're really seeing is someone who has built boundaries, someone who has stopped apologizing for taking up space. Becoming unrecognizable is not about external glow-ups. It's about the deep inner rewiring, where you dismantle old beliefs, confront hard truths, and build a new identity rooted in power, not pain. You stop clinging to who you were because you finally realize that version of you was just a starting point, not a limit. The new you doesn't reject the old. It honors it by evolving beyond it. People will question your silence, your choices, your change. Let them. You didn't come this far to convince them. You came this far to become someone so strong that their opinions can't reach you. There's a point in your journey where you outgrow the conversations, the habits, the environments that once shaped you. That's not arrogance. That's alignment. You're moving toward what truly serves your future. And yes, it's lonely sometimes. Reinvention strips you of your old circle. But that space creates room for people who reflect your growth, not your wounds. Every time you say no to an old pattern, you say yes to the new version of you. That repetition, done daily, quietly, creates the kind of strength that doesn't need to shout. You don't emerge unrecognizable by doing something once. You do it by choosing daily to act in alignment with the person you're becoming, especially when no one's watching. Eventually, people stop asking you who you are, because your actions start speaking for themselves. Your discipline becomes your identity. Your energy becomes your introduction. And it's not that you're hiding, it's that you've outgrown the need to be seen for things that no longer matter. You're building for depth now, substance, peace that doesn't demand an audience. You'll know you're changing when things that once triggered you now bore you, when old cycles try to pull you in, and you walk away with calm, not chaos. That's how quiet power feels. Every moment you choose to rise instead of react, reflect instead of rage, move instead of moan, you widen the gap between who you were and who you're becoming. And one day you'll look back and barely recognize that old self. Your transformation isn't loud, it's deliberate, it's steady. It's in your choices, your habits, your mindset. It's in the way you no longer need to explain yourself, because your life is doing the talking. Keep going. Become so focused, so clear, so devoted to your evolution, that even the mirror needs a second to recognize who you've become. You don't just wake up unrecognizable, you earn it. It comes from the battles no one clapped for, from the mornings you got up without motivation, and from the nights you stayed focused while others gave in. The shift is subtle at first. You eat differently, speak differently, think longer before reacting. That silence you hold. It carries more power than all the noise you used to make trying to prove your worth. Eventually, people stop asking, "What happened to you?" and start wondering, "How did you do it?" But by then, you've fallen in love with the process, not the applause. You've found peace in the pursuit itself. The version of you that once begged for attention is now the one who walks away quietly, not out of weakness, but because you've found what attention can't give you: real self-respect. To emerge unrecognizable, you don't need a grand announcement. You need consistency. Repeated proof to yourself that the old ways are behind you, that your new path has been chosen, with no exit plan. When you stop explaining yourself, you start expanding. The energy you once wasted on justifying your decisions now goes into building something that speaks louder than words ever could. People may think you've changed overnight, but they didn't see the 1,000 choices behind it. The early mornings, the private pain, the sacrifices you made in silence because comfort was no longer acceptable. You don't owe the world an explanation for why you're different. Growth is not a performance. It's a personal commitment, one between you and the future you're determined to meet. Emerging as someone they can't recognize means your past no longer controls your present. You're no longer reacting from old wounds. You're acting from new clarity. The power isn't in becoming someone else. It's in uncovering the real you, the one buried under fear, excuses, and expectations. And once you meet that version, there's no turning back. The people who once underestimated you will fall silent, not because you demanded it, but because your results dismantled every assumption they ever made. Reinvention is not about becoming better than others. It's about becoming better than who you were yesterday. It's not comparison, it's elevation. Your language changes when you evolve. You speak with purpose. You think before you post. You protect your energy because you now know how costly distraction is. Becoming unrecognizable also means letting go of old definitions. You stop needing to be liked. You start choosing alignment over approval, and your peace becomes non-negotiable. Your silence will intimidate people who thrived on your chaos. That's okay. You're no longer responsible for making others comfortable with the version of you that needed healing. They won't understand why you're distant now. But you're not distant. You're focused. You're present in your own growth. You're building something too sacred to be disturbed by old noise. The world may try to pull you back through memories, guilt, or nostalgia, but you'll know you've changed when even the most tempting comfort no longer fits. You begin to carry yourself with a calm certainty, not because life is easy, but because you've become harder to shake. Your stillness speaks volumes now. When people finally meet the new you, they won't just see the change, they'll feel it. In your posture, your eyes, your discipline, and in the way you don't chase what once chased you. Let them be shocked, let them stare, let them talk. You're not here to be familiar, you're here to be transformed, and the real ones will recognize you by the light you never had before. Chapter 12. Living as the reinvented you, with power and purpose. There comes a point in your journey when survival is no longer enough. You're not just here to endure anymore, you're here to create, to shape a life with precision, with vision, with purpose behind every move. Living as the reinvented you means you no longer chase approval. You build quietly, live intentionally, and let your results echo louder than any introduction ever could. You start choosing purpose over patterns. No more repeating cycles that drained you. You become deliberate with your time, your energy, your circle, because you've seen what aimlessness costs. The reinvented you doesn't beg for direction. You become your own compass. You wake up with clarity, not because life got easier, but because you finally decided who you are and where you're going. Power isn't noise, it's control. Control of your thoughts, your emotions, your reactions. Power is when you don't let chaos shape your choices. You remain grounded while the world spins. You're not the same person who once avoided discomfort. Now, discomfort is your ally. It's the signal that you're stretching, growing, becoming. You walk into challenges instead of waiting for them to pass. Your past no longer owns you. You've forgiven what needs forgiving, released what held you back. And now you move forward with a freedom that only comes when you stop carrying what broke you. The new you builds with intention. No more rushing, no more proving, just steady, quiet progress, day after day. You're not chasing moments anymore. You're building a legacy. Power is found in presence. You've stopped dwelling in the past or fearing the future. You've returned to now, because this moment is where all transformation takes root. The people who once knew you won't know how to talk to you now, not because you're distant, but because your language changed. You speak from self-trust, from direction, from truth. Purpose doesn't mean you never fall. It means you always rise with insight. Every setback becomes part of your strategy. You harvest wisdom from what once hurt you. Living as the reinvented you means less is more. Less noise, more depth. Fewer people, deeper connection. Less pretending, more alignment. You've trimmed the excess. Now you move light but strong. Your peace is no longer negotiable. You protect it like a sacred flame. Not out of fear, but because you know it powers everything you build. Each decision you make now flows from clarity. You don't overthink if it matches your values. You know who you are, and you make moves that reflect that, without hesitation. You stop chasing motivation. You trust your systems, your habits, your non-negotiables. Discipline became your daily language, and it shows. Not in what you say, but in how you carry yourself. The reinvented you doesn't avoid fear. You walk beside it. You've trained your courage through repetition. Fear still shows up, but it doesn't steer you anymore. Purpose drives the wheel now. Your energy has shifted. You no longer speak from wounds. You speak from wisdom. The lessons have settled into your bones. You walk differently now because you've been through the fire and didn't flinch. Living in your power means being okay with misunderstanding. Some won't get you. That's fine. You've stopped editing yourself to be digestible. You're no longer performing. You're simply becoming. Purpose gives your struggle meaning. It transforms every hard season into fuel. The reinvented you doesn't waste pain. You repurpose it. You make your scars part of your strength. And the most beautiful part? You're just getting started. Reinvention is not a destination. It's a lifestyle. You wake up daily with the same question: how can I live today with truth, discipline, and fire? You no longer fear being misunderstood because you're no longer trying to be understood by everyone. Alignment is more important than applause. Truth is more important than comfort. Your life is now a reflection of your standards. Living with purpose means waking up with direction. Even when motivation is silent, you move anyway. You act not because it feels easy, but because you've made a promise to your future. That promise means more than your mood. You become deeply intentional with your words. You no longer say things just to fill silence or avoid awkwardness. Your speech is cleaner, sharper, and slower because you've learned that not every thought needs to escape your lips. The reinvented you moves differently through chaos. You don't match the energy of confusion. You anchor yourself. You become the calm force in the storm, not because life got easier, but because you got deeper. Now, your values aren't just something you speak about. They guide everything. How you spend your time, who you give your energy to, what you allow into your life. Integrity isn't something you put on. It's who you are. You don't just have boundaries. You honor them. Not to shut people out, but to protect the version of you that took years to build. Reinvention taught you that love without self-respect is self-destruction. The old version of you tolerated too much, for peace, for comfort, for belonging. But the new you has learned that peace is not the absence of conflict. It's the presence of self-worth. Now, when you walk into a room, your presence speaks before you do. It's not arrogance, it's alignment. People sense the clarity in your posture, the certainty in your silence, and the purpose in your eyes. You've stopped hoping for overnight change. You respect the process now. You've seen the beauty of becoming through repetition, struggle, and small daily victories that no one saw but changed everything. Every setback now becomes a study. You don't take failure personally anymore. You use it, you dissect it, you turn it into fuel. That mindset alone makes you untouchable in a world of people who quit at resistance. The reinvented you doesn't just set goals, you build systems. You've stopped depending on bursts of inspiration. You've learned that mastery is boring, and that's why it works. You no longer react to everything. The reinvented you observes. You pause. You process. Because reaction is emotional, but response is intentional, and you've become very intentional. Joy is no longer something you chase. It's something you cultivate in your routines, in your thoughts, in the way you show up when no one's looking. You don't wait for good days. You create them. You've stopped asking, what if it doesn't work? And started asking, what if it does? Fear is still present, but now you walk with it, not behind it. You lead the way, even with shaky legs. Living in your purpose requires saying no often, not because you're selfish, but because you're focused. You now know that every yes is an investment, and you refuse to bankrupt your energy. The reinvented you doesn't chase closure. You've learned to move on without the apology, the validation, the explanation. You've healed enough to keep building, even with questions left unanswered. When things feel hard now, you don't spiral, you simplify. You've trained yourself to return to the basics. Show up, breathe, act. You trust that momentum returns when you stay faithful to the work. You live with a different kind of ambition now, one that's quiet, powerful, and self-directed. You're no longer building to impress. You're building to express the truth of who you are. The world didn't get softer, you got stronger. Your spirit has been forged in commitment. Every difficult choice you made in silence now echoes as strength in your character. And the best part? You don't need to announce who you've become. You just live it. You embody it. And eventually, the world will adjust, because the reinvented you doesn't ask for recognition. You simply walk in power. Reinvention doesn't happen by accident. It begins the moment you decide that excuses will no longer run your life. Every excuse killed is a step toward becoming unrecognizable. Not just to others, but to the weaker version of yourself you've left behind. When you rise above distractions, silence your doubts, and commit to daily transformation, you start to build a life that no one can take away from you. Not because it's easy, but because you refused to stay the same. Remember, your past does not define you. Your choices today shape the person you are becoming tomorrow. So kill the excuses, rebuild with courage.